Good morning, everyone, and welcome to One Voice of Tabletalk with me, or two of our editors. On my right is
Noah.
Yeah, and I'm Nicole.
And we're here at One Voice's office.
Office.
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about something pretty important, and this has to do with our postmodern era. You know how people go, anything goes, as long as no one's hurt, anything goes. It's okay. Okay, but is it really okay? So that's what we're going to talk about. I hope that came across as clear to you guys. A definition we have of postmodernism is this. It is a late 20th century movement characterized by broad skepticism, subjectivism, or relativism, really heavy words, a general suspicion of reason, and an acute sensitivity to the role of ideology in asserting and maintaining political and economic power.
Wow, that's a lot of things.
Yeah, lots of isms.
That needs to be broken down.
Yeah, that's true.
Further.
Yeah. So maybe we can take the first word, skepticism. So when we say skepticism, what enters your mind, Nicole?
A lot of intellectual shenanigans, I guess. But sometimes skepticism can be good because it would help to somehow get evidence for certain things. But in another light, it might also not be good because it might make the person miss out on the things that are actually true and worthwhile.
I agree with Nicole. Skepticism can be healthy when the result is finding yourself knowing more about a certain topic or going deeper into it rather than shying away from it. But the negative effect is shying away from a certain topic because you find inconsistencies in your own opinion or anything like that. And postmodernism has a lot to do with that, questioning certain things, questioning foundations, certain values, etc.
And it's good to question, right? I mean, God gave us our minds, you know, and so it's good to ask ourselves questions and to test things out. And that's how civilization has actually progressed. You know, people testing the limits. But this is where we also need to discuss things. You know, like where are the limits, and is it okay to break limitations all the time? Is it okay to go against long-held traditions every time? Okay, now another word in the definition is subjectivism and relativism.
They're both kind of like in the same boat. Subjectivism, relativism.
Defined as
Subjectivism. Well, subjective, opposite of objective. Objective means something that is known as a fact, but something that is concrete, right? Subjective is basically the opposite, which is something that can be put into question, something that can be refuted.
Something that isn't absolute.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. And when you say something is subjective, there's that role of self, like me. What do I think about this? How does it matter to me? Relative, what does it mean to me? Okay, so there's that huge concept of me finding meaning in something, which may be so different from everybody else's meaning.
I guess that can be a bit dangerous, especially when you're young.
Yeah. Being
exposed to subjective chains of thought, because usually that's why we have parents, that's why we have foundations, that's why we have pastors, etc.
Right.
It's so that we can be guided. But then, if you know, well, we'll get into it later on. But like, if you notice that since we have internet and everything, more subjective trains of thought are being not naman taught but exposed to younger generations, so that when they grow up, you know, they're not as exposed to like a foundation based train of thought as much, or rather they reject it knowing that there are other options or there are other things.
And the internet has made information so available to everybody. It's hard to know which one really is truth when there's just so much around. The people now, the young people now, you know, us,
us.
We like testing things out. We like having our own internal discussion with ideologies, with beliefs going around. Okay, now the observable things that we see in this postmodern era. Okay, of course, one big one is our clothes. Yeah, I mean, just a century ago, what were we wearing? We were wearing balloon dresses and the women.
Right.
You men were wearing what?
Bow ties.
trousers.
Yeah, pretty much. I was born in the wrong generation, I think. Everyone dressed so snappy.
So we want things comfortable, right? We have flip-flops. Of course, we're still style.
Right now, I'm wearing flip-flops. So.
Okay, so the camera's not taking Noah's flip-flops.
Yeah, good thing.
Okay, and then we also have things like art.
Art, definitely.
Art is very relative.
Oh my
What is
goodness.
art to you may not be art to me.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
For me, like, I think that can be both a good thing and a bad thing. But
Mm-hmm.
nowadays, it's more of a bad thing. Good thing because anyone can be an artist. The bad thing is anyone can be an artist. You know what I mean? Like,
That's so true.
back then you had rules to follow in terms of standards of beauty.
Yes.
That's why you had all these people from the Renaissance, these great
Very
painters,
excellent
and then nowadays you have things like crucifix in frozen urine, something like that. Like it's weird, or like just or like a toilet bowl. One example is this. This is how relative art is at the moment. Like there's one guy, he left something like either a slipper or glasses in a museum. And then people crowded around it and took pictures of it, thinking it was an exhibit. When in fact it was just
an accident.
He just left it on purpose to see how people would react.
Oh my.
So see, anything can be art now, and
Yeah.
I think for me, I think that's before when I was in college, I thought anyone can express whatever they want to. It's self-expression. It's bringing out the soul within. But then when you realize it. When you come to think of it, art was made for a reason. God made art, and art was meant to be beautiful.
Yes.
To express beauty in this broken world, right? And then when you have these things, it's like, you know,
the impartation is different.
Yeah, like what's there to appreciate? That's why I think I guess believing that there should be rules, instruction, art. I think people who believe in that are in a minority now.
Yeah.
Because like you said, there's subjectivism. People like to experiment. Nothing wrong with that, but I think if you're in a field that requires a lot of effort to be expressed in a certain medium, art, I think there should be limits. There should be boundaries.
Yeah, there should be rules. Even in writing, like for example, in literature. We do break rules, but those who break the rules well are those who know what the rules are. Because there's one thing to write beautifully and another thing to write carelessly. Yeah, and I remember because I do teach art appreciation too. In art, we do have sequences. Like during the Renaissance period, we found not we, but the greats like Leonardo da Vinci.
Our time.
Yeah, they found the Fibonacci sequence. Like they found patterns in nature that were repeated over and over, and when people used these patterns in the things that they created, they came out as beautiful. Like everything inside them echoed
aesthetically pleasing.
Beauty. Yeah, and we've lost that in this relative age.
Yeah, or we just choose to ignore it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so other things in this postmodern age, you have restaurants like McDonald's.
Why McDonald's?
Jollibee.
Yeah, we happen to have one of their products here.
We're not endorsed, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay, but I think it's important to point these kinds of restaurants out, these fast food chains out, because one, they're so fast.
Fast food.
And I feel that they reflect the generation now. We want everything fast
And
just
quick.
Like,
That's true.
quick.
That's true.
Yeah, just like the internet, it's fast, it's quick, and even us, we want decisions quick. We want to rise up the ladder quick. We want to be managers quick. I mean, that's us. That's the generation now. We have things that are hidden too. Because we have like clothes and restaurants, like we see these things. But the hidden things like our beliefs, the ideologies that we carry in us or that we struggle with. Let's take, for example, this big one, that anything goes. Truth is relative.
We should say that again. Anything goes.
Yeah.
Truth is relative.
Yeah, so what do you think of that statement? Does that hold true? Is it true that truth is relative?
Maybe it might not be truth if it was relative.
That's true.
I feel like people define truth in their own terms in so many ways that what truth is kind of diluted to how people perceive it.
Yeah.
So it might not, like when they say now what's true for you might not be true for me. Sometimes that is applicable. Let's say when you're really talking about people's different perspectives and how some of their perspectives are valid.
Right.
But when it comes to, important facets or facts, like saying God is true,
Yeah.
even if some of these things are allowed to be subjective, there are foundational things in our plane of reality that isn't subjective at
Right.
all. Like a hat might look good on Noah, on me it might not. So that's okay.
Yeah.
The truth of the hat being good on the person is relative. But when you talk about, the deeper foundational things on how this reality works, like gravity.
Yeah.
Is gravity true?
Yeah, that's pretty objective.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, is it true that gravity exists?
Yeah, or if the world is round, right?
Yeah.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
some people don't believe it's round.
Yeah.
Surprisingly.
Yeah, so you have these things where reality must function at a certain level of absolute fact for it to work properly.
Right.
There are things that
right.
just can't be subjective and floating around.
Mm-hmm.
So some
Yeah.
truth and absolute truths, they do exist. If they weren't, then we'd probably be living in a flat world right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine like science tells us that the earth is round, but if people keep saying, no, it's flat, it's flat, it's flat, because they believe it's true, it's their truth, fact of the matter is, no matter how often they say it as true, the earth is round. So that's the absolute truth.
You hear that, Flat Earther Society? You know their slogan, the Flat Earther.
What?
We have followers all around the globe.
Okay.
Really?
All around.
The globe. That's their slogan. Yeah. The irony.
Ironic. Eh? This concept of truth being relative, it's so dangerous when it comes to law. Let's say murder happens, and then during the defense, instead of it being called murder, it's watered down by another version of truth. He was taken away. I mean, okay, taken away, it does mean he was killed, but calling murder and just a mere taking away,
Yeah.
like there's a degree that is lost.
Yeah, it's diluting the meaning in a way. Or if a murder is like collateral damage, or it's for this person needs to die so that more can live, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And this is where, the issue of like abortion, for example.
Yep.
It's a very hot issue now, and I feel that it's something that we must discuss. Okay, a lot of people think of the little life as merely a glob of cells, unfeeling cells, skin, matter, that can be taken away.
Yeah.
Okay, but really, is it just that? What do you think?
The fact that it grows, it already proves it to be
Yeah.
life, right?
That's true.
Like once the sperm meets the egg and turns into a zygote, it starts growing. So
Right.
It's alive.
it's pretty much alive, but people I think people know that deep inside.
Yeah.
No matter how much they want to believe otherwise. It's just that as we discussed before we started shooting this, abortion is just a way of escape from consequences.
Yeah.
Just so that they
Yeah.
can continue doing whatever it is they're doing, whether it's continue in premarital sex or continue on with their career, because yes, a baby does cost a lot to raise and support, but why does a baby have to suffer the consequences of someone else's actions?
That's
be
true.
it the father or the mother. In cases of rape,
Yeah.
it's the father who should be facing the consequences, not the baby.
And the babies aren't mistakes. I mean, the message that you give out whenever you allow for abortion to take place is that, hey, this life doesn't matter. Yeah? It's the mother's life that matters alone. Who says that a mother's life is not the same in terms of being precious, with the babies? Like, what if that little precious baby has a destiny of being the next president of the Philippines, for example? Right? What if this person is a world changer? What if this person is supposed to invent the newest way of harnessing the sun's energy? I mean, there is a destiny for each little person that God brings to the earth.
Yeah.
And I guess the thinking of it being a woman's rights.
Yeah.
Because a lot of women would purport that, hey, it's my body, it's my right.
Yeah.
But what about the little baby's body? Doesn't he have a right to what happens to his body as well.
Yeah, and from whence she
Yeah.
came, she was once a growing zygote fetus as well,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And we as a generation, we should have like know where our feet stand, and this should be something that doesn't shake.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's something that we should say, no, this is not a relative truth. It is truth that life is precious, and the Bible does say that before our lives came to be, right? God actually wrote the days of our lives. You know, I mean, that's okay. Days of our lives. That's a TV series, TV melodrama from way back. No, but really, if we take scripture, if we take God at His word, then we can't say that one little unborn baby is useless. Is you know.